Greetings and salutations, oh one and all. Welcome to another night shift. Another brand spanking new week of the night shift with DJ Kevin Steele. Community and finance night. How you doing? Yeah, I hope you're all doing well. I want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in right now. Those on the night shift with DJ Kevin Steele. Those locked in on TuneIn Radio on the night shift with DJ Kevin Steele. Those across the pond, One Harmony Radio, top of the morning to you over there in the UK.
Hey, I hope you're tuning us.
I want to say big ups to those on WGLRO, home of the Donna Walker Morning Show, the People Station, taking it from the sheets to the streets, touching from Detroit to Denmark and all points in between.
Hope you're tuning us.
Those on I did say One Harmony Radio.
You're tuning us.
UK, big ups.
Hope you're tuning us.
Those on ClintonLindsay.com, the Foundation Radio Network. Big ups to you. Remember, you can catch Clinton every day from 12 midday until 3 p.m. Eastern.
I hope you're tuning.
ClintonLindsay.com, the Foundation Radio Network.
I hope you're tuning us. I hope you're tuning us.
Want to say big ups to those who are locked in on NIE Radio out of New Jersey.
Hope you're tuning us. I hope you're tuning us. I hope you're tuning us. Stick, boy, stick. Walk the walk, boy, don't talk it. More ways it take, talking. More than nice, not romantic. Can make your backbone ache. Do them tricks, boy, do not care power. You come and take your place and go. And just take control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam bam. So give me the chance.
Want to say big ups to those on Island Worldwide.
And take control.
Out of New York.
And take control.
I know you guys over there in Island Worldwide. And your neighbors over there in NIE Radio in New Jersey.
Yeah, make it specific.
I know you guys kind of chilly right now.
How are you back it? How are you back it?
Stay warm. Whatever you can do.
You alone in a
Stay warm.
attack like back in cricket.
Just take control, you know?
Show what you know. Express and make a show. Boy, give
I want to
it.
say big ups to those on PEMGTV.com.
Take charge. Show what you know. Express and make a show.
Of course, those right here at the home of the night shift to DJ Kevin Steele, we are encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.
Control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam.
Welcome.
Give me the challenge, boy. And take control of the bam bam. And take control.
Kicking it off with J Dell.
Take control of the bam bam. So
The track is called Take Control.
hey, you say that you could dismantle it. Better not boast and cannot handle it. That you just go overboard. Then do it. You better handle it right. Manage it. Hope you don't quit when time to live it. Go along with it and start to own it. Just own it. Just own it and make it around. Stick it around. Boy, show what you have to offer. Bubble around. Walk and go down. We go set your dreams to do it better. Yeah, you know what to make of it. And when you start, don't stop until the party done. Just take control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam bam. So give me the challenge, boy. And take control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam bam. And take control of the bam bam. So give me the challenge, boy. Yeah, I wanna say that you're whining terrific. You wanna tidy and make it specific. Like on a hard drive, boy. Just back it. How you back it? And when I show my skills, how you combat it. And I could put you alone in a bracket. Put on attack like back in cricket. Show that you need it. Show what you know. Express and make a show.
Of course, I want to say big ups to those who are locked in on Facebook Live.
Then do it.
Yeah, all you Facebookers. Remember, it's only temporary. Don't get too comfortable over there.
Live it. Go along with it and start to own it. Just own it.
Well, let me take care of some formalities before I get into the meat of the matter.
Show what you have to offer. Bubble around. Walk and go down.
I want to say thanks to Pulse Media Group for sponsoring the first segment of the broadcast.
You know what to make.
Pulse Media Group.
And when you start,
For innovative streaming and recording solutions when being in the moment is priceless. Give them a call.
control of the
754-999-6020.
So give me.
For everything you see right here on kevinstew.com and more.
And take control of the bam bam.
Streaming an event, graduation, funeral,
So give
a seminar,
to wine and terrific. Go on a kind and make
church service, you name it.
right boy, just back it. Away you back it. Away you back
All you gotta do is give them a call, 754-999-6020,
in a bracket. Put on a cap.
or check them out at paulcmg.com.
Touch hands will do it best.
Tell them you heard about them on the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew.
To make of it.
Want to say thanks to Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands.
Party don't just
Althea is a licensed massage therapist
control the bum.
that comes to you with 20 years of experience operating out of Broward County, North Miami-Dade, and the South Palm Beach counties.
Control the bum bum. And take control of the bum bum.
Althea comes to you COVID-free, and she likes to leave that way. She brings her table, her oils,
Go on a kind and make
and of course her Healing Heavenly Hands.
right boy, just back
Like I said, she comes to you.
it.
Just give her a call, 954-655-9000,
Alone in a bracket. Put on a
or email her at thealater@att.net.
and when you start, don't stop until the party done. Just take control of the bum bum. And take control of the bum bum. And take control.
One request Althea has,
So give me the challenge, boy. And
outside of paying her, when she's done massaging you, get off her table and go sleep somewhere else.
so give me
Want to say thanks to Reggae Global Entertainment also.
that you're wine and terrific. Go on.
Reggae Global Entertainment provides booking services, will act as your tour management agents,
Away you back it. And when I
take care of your business registrations, legal service referrals, music production, marketing and promotion,
show what you know.
and so much more.
Cause show.
Let's give them a call, 954-998-8034.
Show what you know.
Or you can check them out online at reggaeglobalentertainment.com.
Take control of the bum bum. And take control of the bum bum. And take control.
And GMAC Music Solutions
Give me the
that bring your event to life.
say that
I want to tell them thanks for their musical therapy segment.
you're like on a hard drive, boy. Just
They provide sound, light, and stage production services, musical equipment, PA systems, audio engineers, DJs, bands, musicians, singers,
put on a cap like
and more.
cricket. Show that you need.
Give them a call, 754-307-GMAC.
And make a show. Boy, give it all you
That's 754-307-4622.
show what you know.
Or you can check them out online at gmacmusicsolutions.com.
All you know. Like a battery, just take charge. Just take control of the bum bum. And take control.
Like a battery,
And take control.
J-Del said just take charge.
Give me the challenge, boy. And take control of the bum bum. And take control of the
Those that are tuning in on Facebook Live,
make a show. Boy, give it all you know. Like a
go ahead and share it with your friends.
just take control of the bum
Everybody, call a friend, tell a friend, call an enemy, friends of your enemies and enemies of your friends. Tell them the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew is on. It's community and finance night.
and take control of the bum bum. So give me the challenge, boy. Hey.
And we're going to take control of this thing tonight. And who better to have in your corner taking control than the police? Yep. One of the things that they do is pretty much take control of many a situation. And tonight I want to introduce to you and welcome to the Night Shift family, Lieutenant Mike Santiago. Yeah, the crowd even started applauding before I could really get your name out. They're just glad to have somebody on. Lieutenant Mike Santiago joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, of the Lauderhill Police Department. LT, welcome. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Now, LT, you're filling in tonight for our usual Lauderhill PD representative who is off right now. And so, being new to the family, being new to the Night Shift family, I want you to just quickly introduce yourself and tell us what you do at the Lauderhill Police Department.
Okay, well, I've been with Lauderhill now for going on 24 years. I currently serve in the position of the Special Operations Command, where I oversee different units such as the traffic homicide units, the community policing unit, and the training unit.
Okay. That's simple enough.
Yeah, it's simple enough, but complex at the same time.
The complexity lies within its simplicity, huh?
Yeah, yeah. But prior to the police department, I served in the United States Marine Corps and born and raised in the Bronx, New York.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So
So I am I am a what I call a New Eurekan.
so you left from up north. Well, Chauncey left from up north, and you left from further up north
Yes.
to settle in
Yes.
South Florida.
Correct.
But it goes without saying, if you were in New York right now, you'd be a popsicle.
Yes, I do agree with you.
So it's a good move. It's a good move. I'm not mad at you at all. And also, like Chauncey, you were in the military.
Correct.
So I see a theme here.
A theme of service
Well, definitely that. Definitely that. So 24 years in the police force?
with Lauderhill, yes.
Wait, so you did military,
Yes.
then 24 years with Lauderhill.
Correct.
But LT, seriously, let me put your picture back up so that people can see it in full. 24 years and you look like this. I don't think they get people in the military at age 4.
Well, I appreciate the compliment, but it's good genetics. Let's put it that way.
Boy, I tell you, whatever you're doing, bottle that. I want some. Kudos to your parents, man.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. They look young as well. They look young as well.
And you talk about them in the present tense, so they're still
Yes.
here.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So they do accept people in the military from age 4. Gotcha.
I no, they don't. No, they don't. I'm actually going to be 50 this year.
Wow.
Yes.
And with that time comes up a great deal of wisdom. You have some experience at putting on wisdom. You have time that putting on wisdom. So we should be getting a whole bunch out of you tonight.
Yeah, I hope so.
Boy.
I hope so.
So tonight we had agreed that we would talk a little bit about policing government buildings and a little bit also about human trafficking. Now, I know the Lauderhill Police Department has been doing a great job policing the community and being police in the community. And kudos to the upper ranks for how you all have been managing the team as they go out and interact in the community. When it comes to policing government buildings, we saw the what would be considered in recent times the greatest breach of security of a government building known in recent times in American history.
Yes.
The police, there was a lot of questions asked of the Capitol Police. And there was also a lot of speculation as it related to individuals' race and how the police act in regards to that. And so I know in Lauderhill the demographic is a little bit darker than what we saw raiding the Capitol.
Correct.
But does it really make a difference?
No, and I'll tell you why, and we can discuss this a little bit. When it comes to policing or protecting government facilities, you have to take a couple of things into context. First is when that facility was built, what does it look like? Was it built to sustain or withstand any type of force or crime or anything like that? And that's something that we call, when we look at buildings, it's called CEPTED. It's crime prevention through environmental design. So we look at a building and we see, okay, is it a soft target? When I refer to soft and hard, it's basically something that is an easy opportunity for a crime to happen, or something that is made difficult to or challenging for a crime to occur. So if the facility is built to where maybe certain things like lighting, surveillance cameras are enhanced, landscaping, design, and even the building itself, where it's facing and all, that in itself is lending to the protection of the building without even policing it.
Okay.
So the building itself, as long as it's designed a certain way, can act as its own protection and its own barrier from anything that can happen to it, such as what we saw in Washington.
Gotcha.
That's the first step. Secondly, we have mindset. So not only the mindset of the police officers or the law enforcement side of the house, but the mindset of the individuals who actually work inside these facilities. What do they look for? Are they observant? Are they aware of their surroundings? Do they know or have they heard of anything potentially happening? And do they have a mechanism in place to report it, to look into it? So that's another thing, or another layer that lends to the overall protection of the building. Now, if those things, for whatever reason, get compromised, or something is not viewed the way it should have been viewed within the facility, now you have the policing. So the policing is a unique thing because we have to take into consideration, even though it's a government building, civil liberties. We have to balance out protection with self-protection with the protection of civil liberties. We also have to look into how are we going to address any incidents that occur at these facilities. So the approach that a lot of us take, or we take in Lauderhill, is that intelligence-led policing.
Okay.
Where basically it is what we call, it's kind of like a business model, so to speak. And intelligence-led policing is a business model or a philosophy, like a managerial philosophy, where we take data, which is collected. So it can be collected in open source, such as internet, or even information from the street, human sources, where we have people saying something is going to happen, and we have covert sources. So we take that data and we analyze it. And we analyze that data along with any other information, crime information, patterns. And we take that and we provide a framework to give it to the decision makers. And those decision makers, which are the higher ups, will now make a determination as to how they will proceed with this information that they have, so that we can be effective in protecting the facilities and its occupants. And that's basically the information that we get and how we implement all that. So you have a combination of the building itself. Is it an easy target or is it a hard target? You have the mindset of the individuals inside the facility. And then you have intelligence-led policing, which kind of guides the thinkers, or I call them shot callers at the police department. And we have to be able to develop a strategic plan to address anything as it relates to protecting these facilities. And that's basically that three-prong approach that we look at when we're dealing with the government facilities.
And so is that the approach all across the United States? Is that a general policing approach? Well,
I can tell you that it's taught. Whether the agencies adopt this particular model, I don't know. I wouldn't know. It's up to them to kind of adopt this. We've adopted it because we understand the importance of intelligence and how that should lead how we police. Now, once you deal with the intelligence-led policing, once you get all this information, now these shot callers, which are the other people in command that make these decisions, they're making these decisions based on a variety of things that are going through at the time. It could be political in nature. It could be community based in nature. It could be, and a lot of people forget this, but the officers themselves, the law enforcement, they're also stakeholders in this entire thing that we call a community. So we have to take all those things into consideration. And depending upon the times and what we're experiencing is something that is going to lend to how we actually provide that policing. It's not a matter of not providing it. It's a matter of how we're going to provide it. What strategies are we going to take to actually address any issues? So we try the preventive way first. And if that doesn't work or offers some challenges, we go into the policing aspect of it. And then to follow up on that and to bring everything around in full circle is we also have to have a commitment to hold people accountable for whatever it is that they did to these government facilities. So that's the accountability part is huge. We can't just let things go.
Right.
Because that's just setting ourselves up for future incidents. And all of this stuff that I just finished saying with, you know, the safety of the building, how it's built, the design, to the mindset of the people and the actual intelligence-led policing strategy, it's all done in vain if we're not going to hold anybody after the fact accountable.
Right. Got you. One quick thing before we go any further. I made an error in what we're talking in our title for what we're talking about tonight and what I announced that we're talking about. We're talking about policing government buildings and mental health calls. So pretty much mental issues. And so I thank you for that reminder. You know, we talk about several things as we go through our days. So, yeah, that one kind of stuck on my head for a little bit. And it just messed up everything with all my posts today and everything. But nonetheless, those can be fixed. So we have with us Lieutenant Mike Santiago from the Lauderhill Police Department, a wealth of information, quite a resource and an abundance of experience. Now, so taking this into consideration and how our buildings, our government buildings, how many government buildings do we have really that you guys have to be policing in Lauderhill?
Well, we have the main city hall, and then we have the other facilities, which sometimes are not looked at or perceived as government buildings, but they are. So you have the city hall, you have the police department and its substations, you have every fire station within the city, you have the parks locations, you have the water treatment plant. All of these locations are city or government-owned and ran facilities, which need and require the same attention as the next. So it's a not a small task by any means. It is a large task to kind of take on. However, if we follow that same pattern throughout all of these facilities, we tend to have a success rate because, again, City Hall might be the facility that everybody identifies with as the government building because it is. It's the headquarters of the city.
Right.
And it's where everybody goes to, pay their water bill or conduct city businesses there. But there are other locations that can also affect the city in different ways if, for whatever reason, anything happens to them. So the city takes it very seriously. The administrators and everybody that's with the city takes it very seriously and their protection and the people inside, the occupants as well.
So let's run through a little scenario here real quickly. Let's say the people of Lauderhill are unhappy with how things are going in the city. And they decide they're going to storm City Hall. We saw a similar thing happen in, where was that? In Wisconsin, was it? Where they stormed a federal building and officers were standing there and people were all up in their faces shouting at them. Some of them came in the building armed.
Right. I'm
So
not too sure where exactly that was. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember which one it was, but anyway, people. So here's the scenario: people decide they're upset, they're going to protest, and they're going to storm the city hall in Lauderhill. How does that play out?
Well, I can tell you that the city hall is well designed and well built. So that's an area where we have surveillance. The design is appropriate for that first step. So we start to see that. We start to identify with that design where we can deploy our resources. So we take that initial design and we shrink it down. So we make it as secure as possible, giving only one approach. Then what we do is, of course, we have to protect everyone's rights to protest and to freedom of speech. So we allow certain things to occur safely, as long as no one is at risk of being injured or anything like that. So that's something that's allowed by the Constitution. So we're in a position now where they're upset. Well, that's where the intelligence-led policing kicks in. We have to find out why they're upset. Why is it that they have to come to this? What broke down initially that led them to get to this point where they feel it necessary to storm? What's their purpose? What is their goal? So all of this information is collected. Raw data is collected. Information which is different than raw data is collected. Our neighboring agencies and the county provides intelligence. We have information from other individuals that may be part of the group. And believe it or not, we'll have people from the community itself that may be upset with what's going on, but are willing to talk to us. So we try to get with them, communicate with the community leaders to see if there's some sort of resolution prior to getting to this moment where people want to storm. So all of this stuff is done. Some of it is done simultaneously. Some of it is done prior to this stuff. The whole point is to try to get ahead of something bad happening.
Right.
Now, let's say that everything broke down, talks broke down, and everything bad is happening. Well, at that point, we have to fortify whatever it is that they're trying to come through. In your case, you said storm City Hall. Right. We try to fortify City Hall. And then there are actions that we take inside with employees and all, because we have to protect them as well. And then fortifying it and preventing certain things from happening is basically our goal at that point. Now, there are certain tactics and strategies that are used and implemented that I'm not at liberty to discuss.
Gotcha.
Because it's protected by law. So certain strategies and tactics that we use we can't openly discuss it.
Right.
But those are things that are trying to prevent anyone from getting injured. Right. And at that point, you have obviously the officials, the command staff, along with city officials, that would come to some sort of agreement as to how we will proceed from there. But these things are constantly in motion. They can go up 1 second, come down the next second, be balanced the next. It's constantly moving. It's a very fluid situation.
Right.
However, if we have plans in place, and this is the thing, having plans in place is our best option to ensure everyone's safety, to include the officer's safety. So we have to have plans in place. Once that happens, and then from there, if the action is fluid, then we have to move with the action itself to address anything that may come up. And that's basically how we would address the situation like that. Again, there's a lot of things that are conducted behind the scenes,
Right.
but a lot of our stuff is, believe it or not, based on prevention. What is it that we can do to try to come to some sort of resolution or to mitigate the circumstances? And that's basically what we push ahead of time, is that. And the way we do that is by trying to reach out to any of the organizers or anybody that's simply upset and has some sort of issue.
Right.
We have open lines of communication in the police department. You can contact every single division within the agency. I'm available all the time. With the city itself, there's different means to address the city via email, telephone, text. We have provided so many different ways for people to actually address issues, whereas in the past, it was very difficult for people to get a hold of someone. And I know you probably experienced this in the past, before technology was the way it is today. It was very difficult to get a hold of a person, to get a hold of someone, to get a response. And if you didn't do that or you didn't get a response, it would lead to frustration.
Right.
And that frustration sometimes would lead to action. And that's what we're trying to prevent. So if we can prevent it from the beginning and come to some sort of resolution, then we can actually mitigate the overall circumstance.
Now, so primary objective, minimize casualties. When you have individuals storming the buildings with weapons, does that change the game any?
We still have strategies in place. And although weapons is something that we obviously have to take into consideration, it doesn't change the basic strategies of policing and protection. There are certain things that we have to go by, certain levels or use of force that we have to abide by as per the state law. But the mentality, we're already at a heightened state of awareness because of just the mere threat.
Right.
To storm a government facility. So we're already at a heightened state of awareness. Introducing a weapon, we kind of always assume that because, the Constitution of the United States allows people to lawfully carry firearms.
Right.
So that's one type of weapon, but weapons can be more than firearms. It could be rocks. It could be signs. It could be, your basic household tool. It could be anything. Can be considered a weapon. Does it change the strategy that we use? No. It may change how we implement certain things. Certain things may be implemented sooner than others. But we're always at a heightened state of awareness when it comes to things like this.
Okay, so that leads me now to the question of at what point now does deadly force come into play? But before you address that, I want to say sayonara to those who are on Facebook Live. This is where we part company with those on Facebook Live. Thank you for tuning in. Go over to kevinstew.com. Use the link that's in the description. It takes you straight to the website. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to register. You can be anonymous in the chat room. Post your comments there. Of course, we call the chat room the stew pot. And everybody else calls that chat room. On kevinstew.com, we're very fancy. It's the stew pot. So come on, be interactive. Share your comments. You can call, you can text 773-789-STEW. That's 773-789-7839. Call, text, WhatsApp, Telegram, whichever of those communication methods you want to use, feel free. But of course, the best way and the most ideal way is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment. So come on over, Facebook Live, deuces to you. Take care until we do it again tomorrow. The segment is done. So, LT.
Yes.
At what point does the use of deadly force come into play when policing at government building?
Well, the use of deadly force is not unique to any location per se. It's all up to the perception of some sort of imminent danger occurring to either the officer
Mm-hmm.
or an innocent bystander. These are the things that we have to take into consideration with the levels of force that are implemented to address certain issues. Um, it could be different from one person to the next. It could be different from one situation to the next. It's all on what a reasonable, and this is per law, what a reasonable police officer believes at the time of the incident.
Mm.
So a lot of times we see things happening and we question why this happened or why that happened. Well, everybody questions everything, and I think it's
Right.
important to question everything. We should never just let things go. However, there are different times where just videos are shot from different angles,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and we start to question certain actions taken by law enforcement officers without truly understanding the importance of having a full and complete investigation done. We
Right.
tend to jump to conclusions based on something that we just happen to get a glimpse on.
Mm-hmm.
So the use of force is really what a reasonable police officer believes at the time was going to happen. Something in imminent danger. It was he or she was in imminent danger at the time, and believed that somebody else may have been in imminent danger, and they had to use an escalated level of force. A lot of people don't understand that the deadly force, we have situations where we work through things, but we also have that same thing where we try to figure a way to develop certain aspects where we now start to back down. So it's a delicate balance. Obviously, life has to be at risk. However, there's never only one way of doing things, and that's what we all have to understand, that there's more than one way of accomplishing a goal. But at times, certain situations will kind of put us in certain areas where we start to lose the amount of options we have to address certain actions as they start to escalate.
Right.
So again, it's one of those things that is unique to the officer, to the person right there that's actually implementing the use of force. But it's no different in a government building than it is outside on a public roadway. We're not gonna look or view the government building itself as something that, we're using force for what purpose? Are we protecting life? Are we protecting classified information? So there's different things that are involved in this decision-making process when it comes to that. And this decision-making process, I want to caution everyone, it's not something that takes an hour or two. A lot of
Right.
times, these are split-second decisions that are made by this particular law enforcement official based on their experience, their training, their understanding of what's going on. There's so many things that are involved, and they have literally fractions of a second to make a life and death situation. So it becomes very, very difficult.
And
So
this is why I ask, because all right, so the average individual with a firearm in their home has the is has the mindset of protecting self, family, and property. And if someone is forcefully trying to get onto their property or into their home, someone that they perceive is coming to inflict bodily harm, they have a right to defend themselves, correct?
correct.
So a police officer given the task of protecting a government building, wouldn't that be a similar thing?
Well, it goes into the theory and the concept of risk versus benefit. We have to look at it. The totality of the circumstances is what we have to look at. And I apologize for mispronouncing that. I get tongue tied sometimes.
Hey, listen,
Um,
we're talking about real things, but we try to keep it
yeah,
as
there's
normal as possible, as in regular, because I'm
right.
just a regular guy, and the people that are listening are just regular people, so we have to keep it at
Well,
street level.
if you look at it, look at the total circumstances, is
Mm,
basically what I was trying to get. So
yeah,
there's so many things going on, and these offices will have directives before they go out there. It's not like if they're, out there on their own doing whatever it is that they want to do. When it comes to situations where, like you said, the scenario that you set up,
hmm
that situation, these officers are out there under the direction of command. And command, trust me when I say, have tossed and strategized and done all types of things, included, the political aspect, included the community aspect. They took the officers into consideration. They have a lot on their mind when they're making these decisions. Then they send out and they provide direction to these officers before they even go out there. So again, when it comes to the building itself, it all depends on what was done, the strategy that was used prior to the officers even being in place. So these are the things that based on the scenario, these are the things that we look at.
mm,
But these officers have some sort of plan prior to them getting into that position. If it's like you said, the scenario that you described, people storming it. Again, it may be different if you have something just spurring up at the last minute where nobody had any idea that this was going on. And it kind of caught us by surprise and we're responding now.
right.
That may kind of pose a little bit of challenge to some of the strategies that we have in place, but the strategies will still be put in place and they still will be followed. So although I understand the concept of protecting when you're at home, private citizen doing what they have to do, the Constitution provides that right for them. It allows them to do that. Um, when it comes to certain things as it relates to the government, well, there's a laundry list of things that have to be addressed before we even become implemented or placed in a position where these officers have to take action. So these are some of the things that we have to deal with. But
S-
deadly force is a very, very unique thing. One, it's unique to the officer, but that can be influenced by the strategies that were put in place from the commanders
mhm,
ahead of time.
yeah.
What was our goal? What was our mission? What were we trying to accomplish? All of these things come into play. So it's a little bit different when it comes to that. I mean, again, it's very fluid. I wanna caution everybody that it's very fluid. It's a very fluid situation. So it's not something that we can have a rock solid answer
Right, right,
and say
right,
this is what we're going to go with,
right.
because it all depends on what's going on at the time. I've heard you on the radio and you're moving, you're shaking and baking, you're doing this, you're doing that, and as things come up, you start to notice that you adjust to
Right,
whatever's coming your way.
right,
Well,
right.
that's kind of the same concept with us. Even though you have a plan, even though you have strategies, you still have to address certain things that you may have not planned for, but you still have to address it based on your knowledge, your experience, your training, and you can overcome that challenge. And that's kind of like how we look at the overall thing.
Okay, because as a regular guy, I am looking at a police officer protecting a government building like me protecting my home. And if somebody tries to unlawfully or forcefully enter and possibly cause bodily harm, I see you coming at me with some kind of a weapon. My thought is you intend to do me some harm. So
Right. And
I'm
again,
stopping you
it all
before you
depends
get
on
to
the
me.
officer. Right. It all depends on the officer. However, you have to remember what I said earlier,
Yeah.
that there are different ways of handling things. There's
Right,
not
right.
only one way. So, maybe having people in the crowd, maybe communicating with certain individuals, that's not to say it's going to stop everything. You will have maybe that one radical person that decides that they're going to really push the limits. And that's the one that you have to address. However, like I mentioned earlier, there's never only one way of doing things. And we are tasked with that Herculean thing of that mission of finding other ways of doing things. There's never only one way. So we're constantly doing that. We're constantly growing and developing and understanding what's going on around us. So although I understand what you're saying, yes, you would think that the government building and this, but again, it's a building. Yes, we have rules, we have regulations, we have direction prior to that, and we do have the authority to take action if we perceive a life and death situation as a threat. But we also try to employ different tactics to address it. If those things fail, then we continue to move on the spectrum.
I'm gonna ask you a question. I don't know how often you get asked this question, and I didn't really plan to ask you this, and you can navigate this any which way you choose. Are officers trained to shoot to injure or shoot to put down?
Officers are trained to stop the threat. So basically, we have tools, and our tools are not just the firearm that we have. We have other tools such as the taser, we have the baton, we have the chemical spray. So there's different things, but our biggest tool is our mind and our mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the biggest tool we have. If we can employ that first and everything gets resolved with that, you know what? It's a win-win for everyone. But we go through the processes of analyzing things, and these are split-second decisions that we have to make as to what tool we have to implement at the time that's going to effectively stop the threat. But with that comes all these other things. You know, if the guy has a knife or the guy has a gun or the gal or whatever, there's so many things that are involved with that and that decision-making process. However, when it comes to shooting, how we train is we train to shoot the biggest part of the body so that we can stop the threat.
Gotcha.
For those who believe that we can shoot a finger or a leg or an arm, it is absolutely unrealistic.
Yeah.
That
a lot of people get caught up in these movies and TV shows, you know.
Yeah,
so he couldn't shoot him in the arm. He only had a knife. He couldn't shoot him in the arm.
Yeah. That's something. Imagine this. When we're out on a shooting range and we're practicing and we're qualifying and all, they try to get some sort of our blood pumping, our adrenaline running, so that we can see how effective we are. But it still doesn't come even close to what we actually experience
in a real world situation.
In a real world, exactly, in a real world situation. So when your adrenaline is pumping beyond imagination, I mean, it gets to the point where it's pumping so hard, it's a life and death situation. You're going to always revert back to your training, and that's why we train this way. There is absolutely no way that anyone can shoot and I'm going to qualify that by saying me. We cannot shoot a moving target with adrenaline pumping from any distance effectively. And this is one of those things that's misleading when it comes to the movies.
Yes.
When you have a guy shooting a fingertip. Oh, I shot the gun out of his hand, and I'm like, holy man, that's something that just doesn't
John Wayne
happen.
movies.
Yeah, that's something that just doesn't happen. A good test for it is try doing doing a few push-ups, doing a few sit-ups, doing a few pull-ups, and then try writing your name on a piece of paper. Let's see how well and how effective you are at writing something on a piece of paper, and it's neat and it's legible. It's very, very difficult to do it. So imagine trying to fire a weapon. And these are the things that a lot of people don't understand, the stresses that these officers are actually under when they have to employ or deploy their weapons. And it's not something that we want to do. It's something that the situation now has risen to the level where we have no choice, or we use that as a choice to address whatever threat is coming to us. So that's basically in a nutshell what it is. Don't believe the movies. They are not. They are far from being realistic. So it just doesn't happen. But basically, the officers are trained to fire upon, when it comes to the firearm, the largest part of the body, because that is what we want to make sure that nothing else. We're just neutralizing the threat, and we're not doing any other harm to anyone else.
Right.
So that's kind of like one of the things that we make sure that we address when it comes to that is, unfortunately, we don't train to shoot knees and fingers and ears and things like that, because it's not feasible. It's not realistic.
Yeah, and people, they really think that what we see on TV, that people can do that in real life. And
yeah, that's not realistic at all.
I'm like, have you ever gone to a range? That's my first question. Have you ever gone to a range? Because
it's tough.
Even just in a controlled environment like a range, it can be quite off-putting.
Yes, you miss.
Yeah.
You absolutely miss on a range where it's a sterile environment, where you don't have any of these stressors. You don't have nobody. You don't have to make a life and death situation. You're just basically focusing on the mechanics of firing a weapon.
Right.
And that's easy, and anybody can hit the bullseye with some training.
Right.
Now try that under duress, and see what happens. Sometimes people can't even speak under duress, let alone shoot.
Right.
So, so we can just imagine all the things that we cannot do, or we can't do effectively under duress, and now place a firearm in your hand, and it's multiplied.
Now,
so
to segue, talking about doing things under duress. When you get a call that has the component of an individual going through a psychotic episode, going through a mental crisis, how much different are the strategies that are in place with approaching or protecting a building when you're going out to a mental health or mental crisis call?
Mental crisis calls are extremely unique, and I can tell you, in the past, they were handled just like everything else. And it was it was challenging for us, because now we were the social workers of the world. So now we had to deal with people that had mental challenges, and we're not seeing things in the reality that we were seeing things in.
Right.
So now we have we took a different stance, and law enforcement as a whole started identifying with the fact that we needed to do better. And law enforcement now is being trained in crisis intervention, where they adopt a practice of being able to address these types of call by trying to de-escalate the situation, mitigate any types of threats that are there, simply by identifying with the person that is going through some sort of trauma. It could be any type of trauma. It could be emotional trauma. It could be some sort of distress, and they may be acting somewhat irrational. But we started to find out that when we started training officers and identifying, first you have to identify that the person is actually going through some sort of stress, mental challenges or whatever. When the officer finally identifies that, they're able to employ different strategies to address that, whether it be trying to seek help, whether it be the officer's approach. Sometimes the approach may be, we should go less aggressive, maybe turn off the lights, or just approach, differently. That a lot of times in itself mitigates the circumstances. That'll start to actually lower the tension levels. And we start to realize that once we start breaking or peeling back the onion of that particular situation, we start to realize that this person was going through some some personal issues or some other issues, and we're here, and now we have the capabilities of providing guidance for help. There's now different types of services out there that can address these things.
Mm-hmm.
And the police, unfortunately, are the first ones to get contacted when things go bad. If
Right.
somebody's acting irrational, the first thing people do is call 911.
Right.
And as much as we want to say, just hire social workers and get rid of the police and all this other stuff, you start to wonder, is it a reality? Because even though we're employing these tactics, sometimes these tactics don't work, and we have to now go into other strategies that are social workers that are going to be ill-equipped to handle. So again, I'm not taking anything away from them. I believe that they provide a very valuable service. I think they should be working with the police, especially for advanced training and things like that. However, when it comes to certain situations, especially, I'm talking as far as what I've encountered, understanding what crisis intervention is, developing tactics for the officers to identify first and then address certain situations that may involve people that have some sort of challenges mentally, or maybe going through some sort of stress disorder. Those are all things that we have to identify first. Training these officers to identify them are huge. I'll give you an example. We're going to be starting up an autism awareness program in the police department. And, autism is a unique situation where people sometimes suffer from this particular medical issue, and a lot of us don't understand it. Right. Many people in the population don't understand autism. And now all of a sudden, they react to certain things. People that are suffering from this react to certain things. And they contact the police, and the police get there. Well, if anybody knows anything about autism is something that is something that can be triggered in the individual. So if the officer, maybe they don't like to be touched, maybe they don't like loud noises, anything can affect them, and they can react a certain way.
Yes.
Anything, flashing lights, anything can affect them. So what we do is we train the officers in autism awareness, and we have this outreach program now where the community can actually sign up. And this is just one of the tactics, like I was telling you before, prevention is huge for us. This is one of the programs that we're developing, and it's called LPD Cares. And what it does is that it allows the community to log into the city system and provide information if they themselves are suffering from autism, or they have a family member that's suffering from autism, and they get placed into this database over here, and it informs the officer. They can basically give us a description of the person who has autism, and then they get an opportunity to provide us with details. They may not like the lights, flashing lights, or they don't like to be touched, or they don't like loud noises. They can actually describe these things. Now, what ends up happening is that the officers now know if they're getting dispatched to a household that maybe somebody's suffering from autism, and we can actually look it up and see how we can approach this household. That in itself is huge, because it's giving the officer yet another option on how to address certain things, whereas before, the officer wouldn't know how to address it. He simply wouldn't know how to address it, and would start addressing it like we've always done everything. And that's when it becomes, that problem where it's like, here we go again. We misidentified something. So these are some of the programs that we have going on, and it goes along the same lines of identifying crisis. Who's going through a crisis, what type of crisis they're going through, and what can we do for them? How do we provide services for them without having to be this, every time the police show up, it's always a negative encounter. Unfortunately, every time people call the police, it's because they need for us to take care of something that has gone beyond their ability to handle.
Right.
So, every time we do get called into something, it's going to be a negative interaction. However, what we've tried to do is try to mitigate something negative and maybe not have it become positive, but at least not have it rise to the level of such big, high negativity that we start to create a divide. And that's what we're trying to make sure it doesn't happen.
You see,
So,
sorry to cut you off.
sorry.
I know you have organizations like NAMI, National Alliance on
Yes.
Mental Illness, that team up with law enforcement to provide certain courses
Yes.
to help officers in various branches of law enforcement. And I have spoken with members of NAMI on this matter. And it is good to know that Lauderhill Police Department are currently in the process of even improving what y'all have been doing already. And autism awareness, even now when it is not quote unquote Autism Awareness Month, to just raise that, to be cognizant of the fact that, hey, listen, these things happen all year round. It doesn't happen at a particular time when it is being recognized by society. So we need to be able to be on point with some of these things. So having officers be trained on these things in a time like this is, I think, is an excellent move. And I hope neighboring police departments, as you interact with them, catch on to some of these things if they're not doing it already. Now, there is, and I don't hear people talking about it much anymore, but back in January in Killeen, Texas, there was a gentleman by the name of Patrick Warren Sr., who the family had called the cops because he was having a crisis. And the cop came to the house, and apparently this cop wasn't trained in dealing with something like this. And he met the man at the door. The man met the officer at the door, and family members had briefed him on what was happening, and the man told the officer to leave. And somehow, as the officer backed out and went onto the lawn of the man's house, as he was waving his hands, no weapon in hand, just waving his hand, telling the officer to leave, go away, just leave, the officer shot him. Died. Man dead on his front lawn. And it's a story like that led me to ask you about this, as the Lauderhill Police Department deals with it. Because more often than not, we would hear of some story like this happening and nothing comes of it. You know, we hear of people, not to flog a dead horse or to stir up that ant's nest, you know, people getting shot in their vehicles, reaching for their wallets and things. I spoke with Chauncey at length about things to prevent situations like that. But if an individual is going through something, for an officer to recognize that their behavior would not fall under the scope of what would be considered normal, then and for that officer to be in the mindset or aware enough that they have to approach a situation differently, is that a training that goes across the board with patrolling officers, or are officers specialized in that training?
Well, there's two. There are officers that are specialized in what they call CIT programs, at crisis intervention teams,
Right.
and they specialize in it. However, all officers, especially in the Lauderhill Police Department, not only are they encouraged to go through the basic training of CIT, But in a lot of cases, is one of those things that the chief of police requires to ensure that everybody is going through this particular training, at the minimum, the basics of CIT. Now, you will have officers that we will designate as the duty experts in their fields,
Right.
and we'll develop these crisis intervention teams where it goes beyond the capabilities of those officers that are currently working. It may need some special resources, and these officers that train in this particular program day in and day out are able to do that. However, that's still within the same confines of the Lauderhill Police Department. But I can tell you that CIT there's a big push that I'm aware of, definitely in Broward County, where they push the program, and there's a lot of first line officers that are taking the CIT courses, and they're starting to realize that crisis intervention is huge for us. We have
Right.
to, and like you said earlier, we have to be able to first identify what's going on. We have to assess the situation before we start taking any type of action to ensure that what we're doing is the correct thing and it's not something that is being confused with something else. So I can tell you that the Lauderhill Police Department is definitely pushing CIT, and most of our officers have gone through a crisis intervention training.
Nice.
And it's a continuous thing. It's a continuous thing. It's continuous training because you know what? Different information comes up. Everything gets updated. So these officers, a lot of the duty experts actually go out there and they continue to do this, but the officers on the road and they show a genuine want to understand crisis. They want to understand anybody that's going through this stuff so that it affords them the opportunity to provide them with treatment as opposed to taking them to jail. You see, because
Right.
a lot of times when somebody's going through crisis, they may be acting out, but it's because of whatever it is that they may be going through. And if we can provide an alternative to jail, then that's what we kind of want to do. And an alternative to using force is maybe talking or providing programs or guidance to anybody that's going through this crisis. So if we can do that, then we're winning. And we're going to continue to do that. I know in Lauderhill, we're going to continue to do that because it's important for us, because that's what links us to our communities. That's one of the things that links us to our communities.
Right.
It's a collaborative effort between us and the community and the hospitals. It's one of those things that encompasses all of us, and
So,
it's a positive thing.
so as it relates to the autism awareness training, has that already started, or is it still in the development and planning phase?
So the program itself, that we have people are going to be able to log in through the city, that is not operational. That should go online within the next couple of months. The
Okay.
autism outreach program.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the officers training, there is already training being conducted on autism awareness. Everybody will have an opportunity to attend the training over a certain amount of time, but the academy, I believe, provides training, some sort of autism training. And I know there's a lot of nonprofit organizations out there that
Right.
provide training for officers. I know of several individuals who are taking the lead in this, civilians that are taking the lead in this because they have a vested interest and they want just everyone to understand what autism is. And it's important because if we're getting called out to these homes, we have to understand how to handle it.
Right.
When we first get there, things may be going a little bit, out of control, and the families may not have the time to explain to us the do's and the don'ts. So this program that
Right.
we're setting up provides us with that information ahead of time. So if we are going to a residence that may have somebody that's living with autism, then guess what? We kind of understand it a little bit more, where we may be able to prevent a bad situation or mitigate a situation that's already bad and kind of get it a little bit better. So there's different ways. One of our biggest things is understanding that we have options. We shouldn't just go one way. We have to have options in order for us to do our jobs effectively.
So I guess it's a part of ongoing training that
Yes.
officers are reminded of options.
Yes. Options, options, options. And you know, you've been in the business and your line of work for a little bit of time now, and you
Hmm.
understand that there's not always one way of doing things. You got
Oh
to
yeah.
understand that with experience, the experience and the training that you put yourself through
Hmm.
will always end up giving you or providing you or letting you see that you have options.
Right.
It takes you away from the zero sum mentality where it's either this or this.
Yes.
Those
Yes.
days of us saying, is this, or you're going to do this, or you're going to do this, that's not something that we should be practicing anymore because at what point? Because if okay, they don't listen to you, now what are you going to do?
Right.
You've already gave them, you put them into a corner already. So that's when the challenges come and all this other stuff. So understanding that you do have options is huge. Now, whether you're going to take those options and run with it is a different story. But the
Right.
first step is understanding that we do have options.
So let me complicate the situation that much more. You're in a government building and someone having a mental crisis inside the building, and it just escalates. Now the person talks about blowing up the building
Okay.
and
Well, I get,
saying that they have a weapon.
all right. So first thing is first, we have to identify with the fact that we have to find out first if what they are saying is accurate. So first we try to find out, okay, if there's claiming that they're blowing it up, do they have the means to? Do we see anything? Did they give any indication of maybe it's real or whatever, or are they just saying that? So we first have to do that. Obviously, our strategies come into play if we get a call like that. The basic strategies apply: evacuation, contain. All of those things actually happen simultaneously.
Right.
Once we determine that, okay, the person is just, let's say, for instance, the person is just saying that he made a threat but doesn't have the means or the opportunity to actually complete his threat. We understand he's going through a crisis, so he or she is going through a crisis. Well, that's when we employ that CIT program and try to address it. Now, let's say it becomes a situation where the person is now, let's say, barricaded. We can't determine whether they can actually fulfill their threat.
Mm.
So we do have strategies in place, but guess what ends up happening? The way we do it is differently, but we're still employing the crisis intervention team, just in a different format. We might be outside. We might be containing the situation. We might close it down, but we're still talking to the individual. We're still talking. Now, this is a passive threat, is what I call it. This is just them saying, I'm going to blow it up. They're not taking any hostages. They're not doing anything. They're just saying they're going to blow it up or whatever the case may be. We're still employing the crisis intervention tactic. That doesn't change. It's just it's being done differently. Instead of the officer being face to face, now we may be doing it via the phone. But the tactic is still being used. Now we can say this 7 ways to Sunday and come up with a bunch of what ifs. But at the end of the day, yes, we're going to address the situation accordingly. And if we can implement the crisis intervention program, we're going to implement the crisis intervention program. But if the actions of the person are dictating that we cannot use the crisis intervention, that means we have to use other means, then
Right.
we have to use other means. It goes back to the options. We have to see
Got you.
what best fits the situation. But at the same time, on the background, we're still employing, because it's instilled in the officers, they will always use it as second nature. And that's the beauty of this crisis intervention. Although they're using other tactics to address that situation, they will still employ that crisis intervention technique because it's instilled in them.
Right.
That's the unique thing about this particular program.
I like it. I like the focus on the options too.
Yeah.
you know, every time that you guys have been on with Chauncey, now with you, and even when I spoke with the chief, there the idea of policing in a way that leads away from force, the use of force, seems to be at the top. Now, what we get in the news, yeah, that doesn't quite always seem to be that way, especially in communities where you have people of a darker hue.
Hmm.
But something that I see coming down the line, and the recurring theme is a people first kind of policing. And
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's the human side of policing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and pretty much in both scenarios with policing a government, protecting and policing a government building against a potential threat, and dealing with someone going through a mental crisis, even if that person is a potential threat. You're saying that the training that police officers in Lauderhill have been going through takes you on the human side first, and the violent side, the threat that would lead to bodily harm, as that comes up as an option. But your primary is make make contact, have communication.
Communication is key. But I can tell you this, we will always apply the law fairly and equitably, but this time we're applying it with humanity. And I think that that's where it was lost in the past, and I'm talking about in the distant past for Lauderhill, where
Mm.
Lauderhill has transcended into this agency where we are actually applying the law fairly. It's not that we're not applying the law. We're applying it accordingly, but
Yeah.
we're applying it through humanity, through applying humanity in everything that we do, so that it's done fairly.
Right. Right.
And regardless of whatever option we use, the options are based on how fluid that situation is, but it's always going to be based on that human side. And this is what we've actually transcended into is that. So it's not that we're not applying the law, because we are. It's not that we got rid of all of our tools of the trade or anything like that. In reality, we added another tool, and that's that communication. That's that understanding, identifying certain things that whereas before we never identified because it wasn't
Gotcha.
expected of us. You see, so we're consistently adding to our toolbox.
Yes.
And that's a huge thing for us. It's a huge thing when you add to the toolbox. But I want to make sure that we understand, though, that the police department will always continue to get better at what they do. But we have to understand that we can't do this alone. We
Yes.
need the community. And at the end of the day, when we look at it, we have to look at us. And I'm going to go back to Sir Robert Peel, which his 9 principles of policing came into play. He
Mm-hmm.
looked at it as the police is the community is us.
Mm-hmm.
We're interchangeable. We're the same.
Right.
So without them, we can't do our jobs. So we need them to also accept responsibility for their actions, whatever actions that may be. And we can work together to come to a successful resolution, as opposed to this constant debate going back and forth, or this constant, divide.
Right.
But for us, we look at ourselves, we're part of the community just as the next person is. A lot of us live in the city.
Mm.
We take part in the city functions.
Right.
Like I said, I have been with Lauderhill for 24 years, and there have been times where I couldn't pick my wife out of a lineup even if I tried to, because I've spent so much time in Lauderhill. I've actually spent more time with the city residents of Lauderhill than I have with my own family, and that's how dedicated the police officers are. so, so it's somewhat challenging on the personal life, but it's something that we want to do.
You do realize that this is recorded, right?
Yeah. I know. I'll hear it from her later.
Well, you have time to fix it. Crisis intervention right there.
Yeah, there you go. I apply it every day.
But it's a real important thing, like you said, that the community also gets involved in the
Yes.
process of policing. And I hear you go again. The Lauderhill Police Department has in place, well, not so much now during COVID times, right? But you do have, what's it called? Citizens Police
Yeah,
Academy.
we have the Citizens Police Academy. Because of COVID, we had to delay it. However, there's other ways that we still stay involved with the community. I go out there every single day, and my community relations officer. So we're constantly in contact with the residents. We do community walks now in certain areas where we get together. The police department, some of the commissioners, the city manager. We all get together and we just simply walk the neighborhood and knock on doors and empower the people with information. We provide them with so much information as to what we do as a law enforcement agency, the programs that are out there, what to look for so that they don't become victims. So we're empowering them with information, and it's probably been what we've done 2 of them already, and it's been incredible responses from the community.
Oh,
So we
that's
are
cool.
out there.
I don't know. I might have to connect with you guys on one day when you do your
Yes,
community walk and come walk with you
yes.
guys to
It,
have that experience.
it's a wonderful experience to see people drive by that you wouldn't ordinarily think would thank you for being in the neighborhood. And they are telling us, man, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you for being out here. So we see it and we do get the feedback from the community, and we absolutely love our community. And we're going to continue to work hard to ensure that our community tries to stay as safe as possible. But like I said before, at the end of the day, it's a partnership, and we definitely need the community to be with us, to work with us, to have a hand in their own police department.
Yeah, that. It makes your job easier. It makes even tough situations that much
Yes,
easier. Because
yes,
if there's an incident that led to deadly force, the use of deadly force, then the residents, the members of the community have a better understanding of what went down or why it would go down that particular way.
yes,
And I'm not to say that the police officers are always, so well trained that something doesn't happen that goes awry. There will always be something along the line that goes awry, whether it's on the citizen end or the policing end.
right.
But to just know that officers are not going out there with the intent to first draw for their guns because that's what we hear about in the news all the time.
That's definitely
You
not
know,
what we are in the business of doing. But what we're out there for is to ensure the safety of our citizens, and we're going to do that no matter what. But we're a different level police department. Let's put it that way. Different level. We're doing things that are very innovative today, and a lot of things are focused on understanding humanity and applying humanity to our decisions, and that's huge.
nice. Cool beans. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let you go reacquaint yourself with your wife.
I'm in trouble already, so don't worry about it.
And I'm truly appreciate loving the fact that you guys do your best to take the time out to share with the wider community how it is that you're interacting with the Lauderhill community. You know,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I tip my hat to you guys. Chief Stanley has been doing an awesome job. She's an awesome person,
Yes.
and the team, the members of her team that I know personally, all two of you, have been quite impressive to me. And
Thanks.
so I really need to go a step further. Come visit you guys in the department. Um, check in on a couple of people in the community. I know one of your retired officers quite well, Debbie Banner,
Yes.
and everybody loves Debbie.
Yeah. Everybody loves Debbie.
You know, it's crazy. Her retirement, I, I have never gone to a police retirement, but I never thought it would be anything like that. So, you know, and to see so many members, just the average Joe in the community coming in
Yeah.
support of her retirement to celebrate with her, that spoke volumes.
Yeah.
I can't even equate it to something. I can't quantify it. And to know that even now she still interacts with the community from time to time, and you guys who are active are, like you said, taking walks in the community.
Yes. Something as simple as just taking a walk. Things that we got away from a long time ago
Yeah,
for whatever reason. But we're getting back to our roots, and we're understanding that getting out there and just walking and interacting with our residents is huge.
yeah, playing basketball with the kids at the court.
We do everything that we can. Let's put it that way. And the officers have this genuine love for the city. It's just an incredible thing to actually witness. Today we actually went out to several schools in
Hmm.
Lauderhill, and we were able to the schools. I selected some of the kids for high academic achievement and good positive behavior and role models and all. And the chief of police and the deputy chief Belcher, they provided certificates to them, acknowledging them. We went over there. We also partnered with a foundation and provided these kids with tablets. So
Nice.
it was a wonderful thing to go, and these kids had no idea. So you could imagine the look on their faces when they see all these uniforms around them, and they're like, "Oh, the first thing
Right.
is for them is negative." That's what
Yeah.
we're trying to get away from,
Right.
is
Right.
that
Right.
negative mindset. And when they realized that we were there to literally celebrate them, they couldn't believe it. And
Yeah.
it was so sincere, the look on their faces and how they interacted with us afterwards, when we were literally there to celebrate their accomplishments, and that was a big thing for them, and it was a wonderful thing for us too. I was honored to do that today, and it's going to continue. These are the things that we partner up with foundations, and we take care of our own. We take care of our citizens.
Yeah. That's a big deal. I have great respect for that type of action. I really do.
Yeah.
LT, I want to
It's
thank
been
you again
wonderful.
for taking the time out. Now I don't even know if it will be you or John, so that will be here next month. Whomever it is, I'm not even worried about it anymore. Lauderhill is well represented.
We'll have a surprise for you. How's that? I have a surprise guest for you.
Listen, I'm down for it. I'm open to it. I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Hey, no. All I did was facilitate. It was your platform. My platform. It was your show. That's that.
Thank you so much.
You just didn't know it, and of course I waited until the end to tell you, because there's no better time than the end.
It's gonna be the end of me if I don't get back to my wife.
Listen, you take care, bro.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Tell her thanks for me, please.
I will. I will. Take
All
care.
right. Take care. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Mike Santiago of Lauderhill Police Department. Lauderhill Police Department is well represented, and you know, all good things coming out of there. Chief Stanley, Assistant Chief Belcher, you guys have been doing a great job. So keep on doing what you're doing. We moving on into the segment of our broadcast that is our musical therapy, and we get to relax and enjoy it tonight, and you know, just chill. It's what's this? The Love Week, because come next Sunday it's Valentine's. So when Valentine's fall on the weekend, is it the days leading up to Valentine's that is Love Week, or is the week after that is Love Week? How does that work? Somebody, anybody tell me.
And in news at this time, gunshots rang out in downtown Kingston afternoon as gunmen engaged the police in a gun battle along sections of the capital city.
This track
It was only identified as Billy.
is by Hezron, one of his newer tracks.
Gunshot wound.
It's called Dead Man Corner.
Mama one, Papa one, we woke up in a round a dead man corner. Sister one, brother one, we
You know, it's an interesting thing when family members warn you, but you decide to do your own thing anyway.
dead man corner. Hey, never did the one, no, we never listen. No.
It's musical therapy on this first night of the night shift week.
Billy was a juvenile from the ghetto. Parents gave him the best that they could afford. But from a day, Billy started moving. Now take no talk from nobody. Billy just a Billy and a dolly and a cut and go through. Lick down anything from the avenue. Oh, don't go chasing waterfalls. Mama said, birds past the nest, them fly too fast. Oh, but Billy never care, but man no fear, only concerned to impress him peers. Change all in from Billy to Killy. Oh, here comes the meat of the story. Mama one, Papa one, oh, we woke up in a round a dead man corner. His sister one, brother one, oh, we woke up in a round a dead man corner. Billy do 90 miles in a 30 miles zone. Dead man corner. Hey, never did the warning, never slow down. A dead man corner. Where Billy there? Mama asked him. Dead man corner. Where Billy there? Papa asked him. Dead man corner. Been around the table, everybody's sitting here. Where Billy there? Oh. Dead man corner. The news flash, just come in, Mama grab a belly. Start of it when the newsman said Billy just got killed. Shoot out with him on the police. Get him out to tend the case. He's to all the child she did. Tears in her eyes, she looked at Steve Billy dead. Mama one, Papa one.
New track from Hezron on the Hush Darling rhythm.
The sister one, brother one.
It's called Dead Man Corner.
Round a dead man corner. Billy do 90 miles in a 30 miles zone. A dead man corner. Never did the warning, never listen to the warning. A dead man corner. Live your life any old way you choose. Live it through the battles and the bruise. Go live your life.
This is Ed Robinson.
To what they say, what you eat don't make me puke anyway. Go live your life.
That's the title of the track right there.
Why they will
Go live your life.
not fight. Go live your life. And even when they think it's red, let them know it's your life to live. Yeah. People say we gone astray, talking how we lose our way. One day they will know the things they say is far from so. The issue don't give when they talk about the life you live. Cause even if there is a price to pay, you will have to pay it anyway. Go live your life any old way you choose. Live it through the battles and the bruise. Go live your life. It doesn't matter what they say. What you eat don't make me puke anyway. Go live your life. If their list is black or white, they will know they can't win that fight. Go live your life. And even when they think it's red, let them know it's your life to live. Yeah. If you choose to do a 9 to 5, to live your life you choose a cab to drive. Why should I care? Why should they care? Yo, if you wanna go to church on Sunday, right after the dance on Saturday, should anyone care? Only God we fear. Go live your life. Yo, any old way you choose, live it through the battles and the bruise. Go live your life. It doesn't matter what they say, what you eat don't make me puke anyway. Go live your life. If their list is black or white, they will know they can't win that fight. Go live your life. And even when they think it's red, let them know it's your life to live. If I red, you love, enjoy it till you're dead. If I green, you prefer, enjoy it. No fight. If I white, you love, enjoy. All shades of blacks, enjoy to the max. Yeah, yeah, the world is yours. It's all there to enjoy. Yeah. Live your life, it's your life. Go live your life. Any old way you choose, live it through the battles and the bruise. Go live your life. It doesn't matter what they say, what you eat don't make me puke anyway. Go live your life. If their list is black or white, they will know they can't win that fight. Go live your life. And even when they think it's red, let them know it's your life to live. Go live your life.
Gonna lay it on right on early, cause the heat is on.
This is Miss Joanna Marie,
And I know that you're ready.
producer of the Hush Darling Rhythm.
Now that we are moving in the groove.
I need you, Kevin. Pull up that song.
Yeah, man, it's bad for
I really
real.
want you close to me.
I want to be close to you too, Joanna.
I like the way you feel.
You feel nice too.
Hush.
Okay,
Gonna lay it on
Joanna and our passive aggressive self.
early, cause the heat is on. Yeah. And I know that you're ready. Let us lay it on now. Now that we are moving in the groove. I miss a hush, darling. Hush, even if it hurts to cry. Hush, darling. Hush, cause I'm not gonna tell you why. Hush, darling. Hush, cause after the storm there'll be a calm. Yeah. And I will keep you warm, darling.
20 minutes to the top of the hour.
Hey babe, yeah,
20 minutes before I get on out of here.
next to me. Ooh, yeah, darling. Hush,
I
hush.
want to say thanks to the affiliates. Island Worldwide out of New York, NIE Radio, New Jersey,
Gonna lay it on
WGLR out of Texas, One Harmony Radio out of the UK,
early, cause the heat is on.
Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com out of South Florida,
Let us lay it on now. Now that
PEMG TV.
in the groove.
Thank you, thank you, thank you all.
I miss a hush, darling. Hush, even if it hurts to cry. Hush, darling. Hush, cause I'm not gonna tell you why. Hush, darling. Hush, cause after a storm there'll be a calm. Yeah. And I will keep you warm.
Hey, baby. Give you one more, Joanna Marie. Lakers, how you doing?
Sunshine.
Jenna Marie working out with Peter G. Their rendition of Close to You.
Just a couple words describing who you are. Lovely, so lovely. Whatever you wanna know, why I'm in love with you.
Patient and strong, always, no matter what I face, you've been there to bring me through. Just fine, on time. It took a while to see that your love was true.
Now no one cares.
Until
I belong
to you
until the end.
of time,
Good to know,
to know you're mine,
and all I want
to say
till my dying day. I just wanna be close to you.
honest and sweet. Heaven is where I wanna be, where I am when I'm with you.
Perfect, yes, perfect is what you gave to me for all the world to see. Now no one cares, 'cause I belong
To you
until the end.
of time,
Good to know,
to know you're mine.
and all I want
All I wanna say,
till my dying day. I just wanna be close to you.
Here comes the fun part of this song. You ready?
Da-da.
You hear it?
da-da.
Yeah, man. The first and answer.
Da-da.
This is where you know they're speaking the same language.
Da-da-da-da.
I'm saying this, dada.
It took a while to see, now I know the truth.
They're speaking each other's love language at this point, yeah?
I belong
To you
until the end
of time,
Good to know
to know you're mine, 'cause you're mine. All I wanna say, dying,
15 minutes to the top of the hour.
just wanna be close.
It's called the Bedroom Mood Rhythm.
I love
This is Ed Robinson. It's called All My Life.
Compliments to you and the way you love me makes me wonder where you've been all my life. Sometimes I wonder, is it for real or I'm a dreamer or I'm just hypnotized, baby. The moment I laid my eyes on you, I just knew you were the one for me.
Yes, I
Yeah. I'm so thankful that we're no longer strangers. You mean the world to me. Where have you been, girl? All my life. Now that I found you, baby, will you stay for life? Where have you been, girl? All my life. Won't you please stay with me for life? Pretty baby. Most of our friends think I'm no good for you.
good for you.
They can't believe it's true. I'm with you. Yeah. What they don't know is the way I feel about you.
Feel about you.
And the way that you're loving me too. Where have you been, girl? All my
Yeah, I can hear Joanna Marie in the supporting vocals, right?
will
Am I the only one that hear her?
for life. Where have you been, girl? All my life. Won't you please stay with me for life?
It's called All My Life.
Where have you been all my life?
Kelly.
Add a little candlelight and the
It's called Magic.
perfume, girl. Hocus pocus, now you're in the cute little dress that I like. Don't lose focus of what I'm about to show you tonight. I can do magic. Whoa, one snap of a finger, girl. I perform a trick on you. Anything you want me to do, I can do magic. Girl, all you gotta do is dim the lights. I perform a trick or two, baby. 'Cause I can do magic. I ain't no psychic, but I know just what you need, girl. You don't have to write it. Just looking at your body, I can't read, yeah. You're giving me the eye, and it's making me want you back, girl. Turn around, and guess what's in my hand? One snap of a finger, girl. I'll perform a trick on you. Anything you want me to do, yeah. Magic. All you gotta do is in the light, baby. I can do magic. I make your home disappear. I don't know where to rule appear. It's in your nose, you and me. Ooh, baby girl, still baby. See what I'm about to do.
Yeah, Lee Kelly, the magician. On the bedroom mood with him.
This is something
It's called Magic.
you should know. One snap
You know, I hope Lieutenant Mike Santiago has some magic tricks up his sleeve.
trick on you. Anything you want me to do, magic, magic. All you gotta do is in the light.
I know he got this.
Baby, I can do magic.
This is my group. Yeah, man, I claim them. I can do that. SDS, Sensational Dynamic Sound. Suzanne Sultry, Shauna Dazzle, and Dottie. Their rendition of A Woman in Love.
It's the same old story. You care, but you don't love me. And I know it still hurts to hear the truth. Don't expect me to forget you. I love you, and I can't hold back the love I want to give to you. I know it isn't easy,
is Shamika. The Sweet Thoughts rhythm.
I can't even seem to breathe without you. This kind of love is worth fighting for.
What sweet thoughts we have closing out the night shift for tonight, Community and Finance Night.
Loving you is my priority.
The track is called Priority.
Never giving up, no. I promise.
This one for Mrs. Santiago.
My security.
Just know you're Mike's priority right now.
Your love is like food to my soul. There's no way that I can let go.
Thank you, Lieutenant Mike Santiago,
Your lips, nothing sweet like this.
once again
More and more.
for representing Lauderhill PD.
Baby, you're my sweetheart. We got this love of a lifetime. Can't let this good thing go. And baby, I promise, loving you is my priority. You know I'll never let you go, never giving up, no. I promise, loving you is my security. Yeah, I'm gonna love you hard because you're mine. I'm gonna love you as far as the sea.
This is La Vie.
Sun will shine. I know you love me too, but you've got to let
It's called Sweetheart.
cause there's a part of me to
6 minutes to go.
show. Yeah.
Make that 5.
You are my sweetheart, so perfect for me.
Yeah, man, you're my sweetheart too, you know.
You are my sweetheart, and I am your queen. Why keep searching for something I know I wouldn't find when you've been right here in front of me all this time? I'm telling you this now so you could understand that loving you is easy. I'm sure that you're the one, cause you're my sweetheart, so perfect for me. You are my sweetheart, and I am your queen. Our love has grown further than the eye can see. Didn't know it was possible to create a mix as strong as you and me. This love is sweeter, 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 sweeter than honey. Your love makes me so happy, cause you are my sweetheart, so perfect for me. Yeah, you are my sweetheart, and I am your queen.
I haven't played this one in a minute.
My bed is cold tonight, and my arms
I'm gonna go warm up my bed in a minute. This one is called Midnight Love.
midnight love tonight.
The sound of Kadia.
I need some midnight love.
Never thought that this would be the end. No, no, no. Never thought that you could be this way.
No, no, no.
But now it's over and it's done. Oh yeah, gotta get my heart back to life.
My bed is cold
your face again. Oh no, gotta get my heart back.
I want to thank each and everyone for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. I'm back tomorrow, Healthy Love Night. As I'm about to get some midnight love myself. Remember to look out for members of your community. Your community is not just development that you live in, but it spreads far and wide, whether you walk, ride, or drive. People that you pass on the way, on the bus, the plane, the boat, and the train. These are members of your community. Do something good for one of them today, because you never know who's going to do something good for you tomorrow.
Boy, take your time. Give me that slow one.
Speaking of tomorrow, all being well, I'll be back here. Same time, 10 p.m. Eastern. Same place, kevinstew.com. With affiliates. Her name is Kadia Brooks. Former beauty model. Always a beauty. Getting in some midnight love.
I'm representing for DJ Kevin Stew, working on the night shift, the night shift radio show. Won't go changing like the weather, just to please the devil never. Will DJ Kevin Stew sell his soul? That's a word and honor. It's Chris Cinti representing word and honor. Celestia DJ Kevin Stew.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world. From right here in South Florida, I bid you a good night. Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.